Greetings, people. I don't have any eyebrows on. It's all good. I'm just practicing my storytelling right now. I'm going to be reading from Zora Neale Hurston's Complete Stories. The Complete Stories. And this short story is called Spunk. A giant of a brown skinned man sauntered up the one street of the village and out into the palmetto thickets with a small, pretty woman clinging lovingly to his arm. Look at there, folks. Look at there, folks, cried Elijah Mosley, slapping his leg gleefully. There they go, big as life and brassy as tacks. All the loungers in the store tried to walk to the door with an air of nonchalance, but with small success. Now, people, Walter Thomas gasped, will you look at him? Will you look at him? But that's one thing I likes about Spunk Banks. He ain't scared of nothing on God's green footstool. Nothing. He rides that log down at Sawmill just like he struts around with another man's wife. Just don't give a kitty. When Tess Miller got cut to giblets on that circle saw, Spunk steps right up and starts riding. The rest of us were scared to go near it. A round-shouldered figure in overalls much too large came nervously in the door and the talking ceased. The men looked at each other and winked. Give me some soda water. Sarsaparilla, I reckon. The newcomer ordered and stood far down the counter near the open pickle pig feet tub to drink it. Pickle pig feet. Oh, I wouldn't go near it when I was a kid. It was all over the place too. Oh my God, them folks used to love to sell us some pickle pig feet, and they wasn't even eating it. We even had Arabs who ain't supposed to be eating pork done sold us some pickle pig feet, trying to get that money, y'all. Ridiculous. All right. So give me some soda water. Sarsaparilla, I reckon. The newcomer ordered and stood far down the counter near the open pickle pig feet tub to drink it. Elijah nudged Walter and turned with mock gravity to the newcomer. Say, Joe, how's everything up your way? How's your wife? Joe started and all, but dropped the bottle he held in his hands. He swallowed several times painfully, and his lips trembled. He must have been pissed. "Aw, Lige, you ought not do nothing like that," Walter grumbled. Walter grumbled. Elijah, wait. "Aw, Lige, you oughtn't do nothing like that," Walter grumbled. Elijah ignored him. "She's just passed here a few minutes ago, going that-a-way," with a wave of his hand in that direction. "She just passed here a few minutes ago, going that-a-way," with a wave of his hand in the direction of the woods. Now Joe knew his wife had passed that way. He knew that the men lounging in the general store had seen her. Moreover, he knew that the men knew he knew. He stood there silent for a long moment, staring blankly, with his Adam's apple twitching nervously up and down his throat. One could actually see the pain he was suffering. His eyes, his face, his hands, and even dejected slumps of his shoulders. He set the bottle down upon the counter. He didn't bang it, just eased it out of his hand slightly and fiddled with his suspender buckle. "Well, I'm going after her today, and I'm going to fetch her back. Spunk's done gone too far." He reached deep down into his trouser pocket and drew out a hollow ground razor, large and shiny, and passed his moistened thumb back and forth over the edge. Lord. "Talking like a man, Joe. 'Course that's your family affairs, but I like to see grit in anybody." Joe Canty laid down a nickel and stumbled out into the street. Dusk crept in from the woods. Ike Clark lit the swinging oil lamp that was almost immediately surrounded by candle flies. The men laughed boisterously behind Joe's back as they watched him shamble woodward. "You ought not said what you did to him, Lige. Look how it worked him up, Walter chided. And I hope it did work him up. 'Tain't even decent for a man to take like he do. Spunk will sure kill him. Aw, I don't know. You never can tell. He might turn him up and spank him for getting in the way, but Spank wouldn't shoot no unarmed man. That razor he carried out here ain't gonna run Spunk down and cut him, and Joe ain't got the nerve to go up to Spunk with it, knowing he totes that Army 45. He makes that break out of here to bluff us. He's gonna hide that razor behind the first likely palmetto root and sneak back home to bed. Don't tell me nothing about that rabbit foot colored man. Didn't he meet Spunk and Lena face to face one day last week and mumble something to Spunk about letting his wife alone? What did Spunk say? Walter broke in. I like him fine, but 'tain't right the way he carries on with Lena Canty just 'cause Joe's timid about fighting. You wrong there, Walter. 'Tain't 'cause Joe's timid at all. It's 'cause Spunk wants Lena. If Joe was a parcel of wildcats, Spunk will tackle the job just the same. He'd go after anything he wanted the same way. As I was saying a minute ago, he told Joe right to his face that Lena was his. Call her, he says to Joe. Call her and see if she'll come. A woman knows her boss and answers when he calls. Lena, ain't I your husband? Joe sort of whines out. Lena looked at him real disgusted, but she don't answer and she don't move out of her tracks. Then Spunk reaches out on a works. Then Spunk, oh man, this is a bad little story. Then Spunk reaches out and takes hold of her arm and says, Lena, use mine. From now on, I works for you and fights for you. And I never want you to look to nobody for a crumb of bread, a stitch of clothes, or a shingle to go over your head. But me, long as I live. Oh, I'll get the lumber for our house for our. I'll get the lumber for our house tomorrow. Go home and get your things together. That's my house, Lena speaks up. Papa give me that. Well, says Spunk, don't give up what's yours. But when you's inside, don't forget you's mine. And let no other man get out of his place with you. Lena looked up and at him with her eyes so full of love that they was running over, and Spunk seen it, and Joe seen it too. And his lips started to tremble, and his Adam's apple was galloping up and down his neck like a racehorse. I bet he wore out half a dozen Adam apples since Spunk's been on the job with Lena. That's all he'll do. He'll be back here after a while, swallowing and working his lips like he wants to say something and can't. These men be messing, talking shit, starting shit, yeah. But didn't he do nothing to stop him? Nope, not a frazzling thing. Just stood there. Spunk took Lena's arm and walked off just like nothing ain't happened. And he stood there gazing after them till they was out of sight. Now you know a woman don't want no man like that. I'm just waiting to see what he's going to say when he gets back. But Joe Canty never came back. Never. The men in the store heard the sharp report of a pistol somewhere distant in the palmetto thicket, and soon Spunk came walking leisurely, with his big black Stetson set at the same rakish angle, and Lena clinging to his arm, came walking right into the general store. Lena wept in a frightened manner. Well, Spunk announced calmly, Joe come out there with a meat axe and made me kill him. He sent Lena home and led the man back to Joe. Joe crumbled and limped with his right hand still clutching his razor. See my back? My close cut cleared through. He sneaked up and tried to kill me from the back, but I got him, and got him good first shot, Spunk said. The man glared at Elijah, accusingly. "Take 'em up and plant 'em in Stoney's lonesome," Spunk said in a careless voice. "I didn't want to shoot him, but he made me do it. He's a dirty coward, jumping on a man from behind." Spunk turned on his heel and sauntered away to where he knew his love wept in fear for him, and no man stopped him. At the general store later on, they all talked of locking him up until the sheriff should come from Orlando, but no one did anything but talk. A clear case of self-defense, the trial was a short one, and Spunk walked out of the courthouse to freedom again. He could work again, ride the dangerous log carriage that fed the singing, snarl and bite and circle saw. He could stroll the soft dark lanes with his guitar. He was free to roam the woods again. He was free to return to Lena. He did all those things. What a shame. "What you reckon, Walt?" Elijah asked one night later. "Spunk's getting ready to marry Lena." "Nah. Why, Joe ain't had time to get cold yet." "Nohow, I didn't figure Spunk was the marrying kind." "Well, he is," rejoined Elijah. "He done moved most of Lena's things and her lawn with him over to the Bradley house. He's buying it, just like I told you all right in here the night Joe was killed. Spunk's crazy about Lena. He don't want folks to keep on talking about her. That's the reason he's rushing so. Funny thing about that bobcat, wasn't it?" "What bobcat, Lige? I ain't heard about none." "Ain't you? Well, night before last was the first night Spunk and Lena moved together, and just as they were going to bed, a big black bobcat, black all over, you hear me? Black, walked round and round that house and howled like 40. And when Spunk got his gun and went to the window to shoot it, he says it stood right still and looked him in the eye and howled right at him. The thing got Spunk so nervous up, he couldn't shoot. But Spunk says 'twain't no bobcat nohow. He says it was Joe done sneaked back from hell." "Humph," sniffed Walter. "He ought to be nervous about what he done. I reckon Joe come back to dare him to marry Lena or to come out and fight. I bet'll be back time and again, too. Know what I think? Joe was a braver man than Spunk." There was a general shout of derision from the group. "That's a fact," went on Walter. "Look at what he done. Took a razor and went out to fight a man he know toted a gun and was a crack shot too. Another thing, Joe was scared of Spunk. Scared plumb stiff. But he went just the same. It took him a long time to get his nerves up. 'Tain't nothing for Spunk to fight when he ain't scared of nothing. Now Joe done come back to have it out with the man that's got all he ever had. Y'all know Joe ain't never had nothing or wanting nothing beside Lena. It must have been her ain't. 'Cause ain't nobody ever seen no black bobcat. Another thing," cut in one of the men, "Spunk was cussing a blue streak today 'cause he allowed that saw was wobbling. Almost got him once. The machinist come, looked it over and said it was all right. Spunk must have been leaning towards it some. Then he claimed somebody pushed him, but 'twain't nobody close to him. I was glad when knocking off time come. I'm scared of that man when he gets hot. He beat you full of buttonholes as quick as he look at you." The man gathered the next evening in a different mood. No laughter, no badinage this time. "Look, Lige, you going to set up with Spunk?" "No, I reckon not, Walter. Tell her the truth, I'm a little bit skittish. Spunk died too wicked. Died cussing, he did. You know he thought he was done out of life. Good Lord, who do you think done it? Joe? Joe Candy? How come? Walter, I believe I will walk up that way and set." Lena would like it and reckon. But what'd he say, Lodge? Elijah didn't answer until they had left the lighted store and were strolling down the dark street. I was loading a wagon with Scantling right near the saw when Spunk fell on the carriage. But before I could get to him, the saw got him in the body. Awful sight. Me and Skint Miller got him off, but it was too late. Anybody could see that. The first thing he said was, "He pushed me, Lodge. The dirty hound pushed me in the back." He was spitting blood at every breath. We laid him on the sawdust pile with his face to the east so he could die easy. He held my hand to the last, Walter, and said, "It was Joe, Lodge. The dirty sneak shoved me. He didn't dare come to my face. But I'll get the son of a woodlouse soon as I get there and make hell too hot for him." I felt him shove me. That's how he died. If spirits can fight, there's a powerful tussle going on somewhere over Jordan. 'Cause I believe Joe's ready for Spunk and ain't scared no more. Yes, I believe Joe pushed him himself. They had arrived at the house. Lena's lamentations were deep and loud. She had filled the room with magnolia blossoms that gave off a heavy, sweet odor. The keepers of the wake tipped about, whispering in frightened tones. Everyone in the village was there, even old Jeff Canty, Joe's father, who's a few hours before would have been afraid to come within 10 feet of him, stood leering triumphantly down upon the fallen giant as if his fingers had been the teeth of steel that laid him low. The cooling board consisted of 3 16-inch boards on saw horses. A dingy sheet was his shroud. The women ate heartily of the funeral baked meats and wondered who would be Lena's next. The men whispered coarse conjectures between guzzles of whiskey. Now, that is a serious story. Because it seemed like, now, Spunk ain't had no business taking Lena from Joe. Joe was a soft man. He wasn't no fighter kind of man. But he wanted to take up for himself because he wasn't, that kind of man. So he took up a razor after Spunk. But he knew Spunk was a crazy man and he owned a pistol. Oh, but he wanted to show his woman, "I will fight for you." Wrong, wrong, wrong. Spunk was not the kind of man that you would stand up to, because Spunk was crazy. He'd bust a few holes in you and talk about it later. Like, why did I done did that? Meanwhile, the deed done been done already. So what happened? Spunk was able to kill old Joe off. Yes, he was his crazy self. Shot him in the back, then lied and said, "Oh man, I had to defend myself and shoot him." But that was probably a lie. You know that, right? But you know what? He got off in court. They said self-defense. But here now, he claimed he saw a bobcat in the dark. But then he was so scared because he knew his conscience was pricking him because he knew he did something wrong. So then he said, "Oh, that was Joe. Joe come back from hell." Well, Joe caught him off guard one day, came from behind and pushed him. And next thing you know, he done fell on a saw. The saw done went through his body. Lord, what a sight. Elijah and them saw it. Lord, Walter and Elijah tried to pull him off the saw, but it was too late. Lord, Lord, Lord. And oh my God. Oh my God. So here you go. Lena done lost 2 men. She done lost Joe and Spunk. Oh well. You live by the sword, you gonna die by it. Or what we can say now, you live by the gun, you gonna die by the gun. And that's what happened. Lord, Lord, Lord. What a sad story. So I guess Lena was one hell of a gal. She must have been pretty because they said, "I wonder who gonna get Lena next." Folks be talking, don't they? They be talking and a-talking. It's like all villages, communities, neighborhoods are all the same. People just talk. They want to know so bad. Before they can even find out, they going to talk up a story. Just make it up. But, I'm kind of happy that Spunk got what was coming to him because he had no business killing a man off for no woman in the first place. You know what I mean? Men in the grave because of some man and some stupidness and some jealousy because you feel that you want to have that thing. Oh my God. Is it that good that you want to die over it? You know what I mean? Fine men out here, fine as all get out. Fine, fine, fine. I would not fight a day for not damn one of them. I'd rather give them to the wolves before I fight some woman over some damn man. Are you crazy? I ain't fighting over no damn flesh and blood. You know, my thing is this. If God wanted me to have him, God would have gave him to me. He would have gave it to me. Show enough, show enough. You women out here acting the fool. If it's for you, it's going to be for you. Now, if you go about it the wrong way to get it, oh, Lord, it ain't going to end up right. Lord knows, if you go about it the wrong way to get it, oh, it ain't going to end up right. I can tell you as a fact. Because I remember one time I went like a fool. And got myself engaged to a man. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Went and got myself engaged to a man. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. He wasn't even divorced yet. Yes, sir. I said it. I said it. And we were just a hollering in church and carrying on, Holy Ghost dancing and reading the Bible and having a good time. And Lord have mercy. I ain't asked no damn questions. I'm like, oh, Lord, okay, we going to court. We going to get this divorce. I'm going to be downstairs in the getaway car. And sure enough, I was downstairs in the getaway car. And you know what happened? That man divorced that man, and he was just a crying and a crying and a crying. I'm like, what the hell are you crying for? If it's over, what are you crying for? It's not that he still loved the woman. He just got married too soon. Lord, that's one thing. Don't get married to these men right after they divorce for the woman. Give them some time to recoup, you know what I mean? To recover from all that pain, from whatever broke down the marriage. Give them some time. Well, when you start off wrong, it's going to end up wrong. Trust me when I tell you. I lived it. Thank you for listening, because this was one of the best stories ever. Thank you, Zora Neale Hurston. We love you. We honor you. We always honor your stories. Lord have mercy. Thank you. Thank you.